I can. Thank you. Yes. Oh, yes. Okay.
Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this, a Friday, November 5th, 2021. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host today, let me tell you about my co-host.
No.
He is the Pickering pugilist. He is the 905 Nimrod. He is... Well, who is he again? Oh, yes, the Khaleesi of Durham region. High energy, Andrew says. How you doing today, Mr. Chapados?
Well, let me tell you something, brother. I'm doing well, David Menzies. Thanks for the insane intro. I appreciate that. Welcome to Rebel News Daily Live Streams, rebelnews.com/live streams, as you can find the correct feed, because we can't say everything we want on YouTube, Mr. Menzoid. So we're on Rumble, we're on Odyssey, we're on Super U. We can take your paid chats from there, Rumble rants, hyper chats, and paid chats from Super U, because we're going to have to cut away from the evil machine that is the demonetized YouTube channel once we start talking about the extra sensitive topics.
But like, not yet, though, right?
But not yet.
Yep. Okay.
Just forewarning people that they might as well change over now.
See, YouTube is kind of like the maid service at a motel. You know, you check in and there's this paper seal over the toilet bowl, sanitized for your protection. That's YouTube. They are basically the sanitization agents when it comes to free speech. So that's why we have to run that warning, folks, at the beginning of these live stream shows. And that's why we have to get off the YouTube highway at a certain point. You know, it's so sad, Andrew. I mean, as you know, in our boardroom, we have plaques that were sent to us from Silicon Valley, from YouTube. One commemorates, I think, 100,000 viewers.
And then 1 million.
And then 1 million. And we're over, I think, 1.5 million.
Correct.
Wow. Bring back that loving feeling. Now they send us a letter saying you've been demonetized for no reason, right? So that's what we're under. We recognize the volume of viewers on YouTube, folks, but they won't let us subscribe to their own country's, what's that little thing called in the Constitution? Oh, yes, the First Amendment, Andrew.
We're growing on the other platforms, 130,000 on Rumble on there. They just made a huge deal, which is probably going to make them implode, explode.
Oh, do tell.
They made the deal with Dave Rubin's platform called Locals, which is a paid subscriber service, so they're going to be amalgamating that in some way, shape, or form. I'm not sure entirely yet, David Menzies, but it'll make them grow as there's a large audience there for a lot of big creators. The first topic on the docket is a conservative mini caucus with Aaron O'Toole. We know how much you love him. We know how much you support the mainstream narrative that is the Conservative Party. Why don't you update people? This was your idea for this story. Why don't you let everybody know what it's about?
Yeah, there is this mini caucus of, I believe it's 15 to 30 conservative MPs and conservative senators, and they're basically going to bat for those who have issues with the vaccine passport. Now, there's a wonderful column in the Globe and Mail today. I call them as I see them, and I think sometimes when the mainstream media gets it right, they get it right, and they deserve accolades. And the columnist, he likened this to Aaron O'Toole being treed, kind of like a fox, and the hounds are at the base of the tree. Do you know, Andrew, that since September 20th, Aaron O'Toole has only had 3 press availabilities. By contrast, Justin Trudeau has had more than double that, I understand. And here's the thing, if you're in opposition, don't you want to devour as much oxygen as possible? I don't know, putting forth your brand, your leadership, criticizing the government, condemning some of the measures we've seen from the COVID-19 restrictions to gun control legislation to climate change, carbon taxes. Oh, wait a minute, what am I saying? That was the old Aaron O'Toole. Aaron O'Toole in the latter stages of the campaign in last September became the Me Too party. So yes. Justin Trudeau says gun ban, Aaron O'Toole, Me Too. Justin Trudeau says carbon taxes, Aaron O'Toole says Me Too. You kind of facetiously said that my favorite leader. It's amazing, Andrew, how things change. As you know, going back to last July, that's July 2020, we had the Independent Press Gallery leadership debate. It became a roundtable because, unfortunately, Miss Lewis had an earache, and then Peter MacKay, in earache solidarity, decided to sit out.
We can't have this now with only 3 people.
Just at the 11th hour. So there's some wonderful leadership by MacKay. But Derek Sloan and Aaron O'Toole showed up, and it's amazing, isn't it, Andrew? When Aaron O'Toole was simply Mr. O'Toole as opposed to Leader O'Toole, he had all the time in the world for us. He took our questions. He was, there he is. And now, since becoming leader, he adopted the Andrew Scheer. There I am asking questions. He's not, running up a tree, as they say at the Globe and Mail. And he's not. Well, Peter MacKay was even worse. There's our old chap, Cian Bexley, behind me. He's not running into a bathroom at a hotel and hiding. So we had a nice little discussion. But wow, isn't it funny how things change when they become leader? When he gets surrounded by his soy boy, war room, and to the point that in September, I went with a camera woman to a Markham pit stop for Aaron O'Toole. This was just days before the Monday election. And what was absolutely despicable is that the lamestream media are all gathered and all being kowtowed to. Aaron O'Toole was too afraid. I don't know if Mr. Producer Efren can find the clip. He was actually petrified to get off the bus. They moved the bus 3 times just because I'm standing there in a parking lot with a microphone. But the worst thing, folks, was Corey Hahn. This is the guy that frog-marched our colleague Alexa Lavoie out of a conservative event. Not only did he tell me to get off the parking lot, but I went onto the berm of the property, and he said, the property line goes right to the curb. There's Corey Hahn with his full face diaper on, telling us to vamoose. And what was despicable, folks, is that Corey Hahn is a lying liar because he said the property line went right to the curb. That meant the camera woman and myself had to stand on a live lane of traffic. And later I learned, no, I think it was about approximately 2 meters of that property was the city of Markham property, right?
Like the loons on the side of his bus.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, talk about coming as advertised. So there I am. I'm having there's one of the RCMP guys because evidently I am a threat to Aaron O'Toole. There's Corey Hahn saying the reason why you're being told to leave is that you're disruptive. I'm just asking questions.
He's protected there. I'm glad to see he's got the mask that has an extra piece to go up to the top of his nose.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, and he's got the $150 Yorkville haircut with the Brill cream on and the slim fit suit and shirt, and he's probably now
elbow patches.
Yeah, he's reaching for his phone to find the most convenient place to buy another jug of soy. Anyways, that is your Conservative Party giving us the snub, much like Andrew Scheer in 2019, Andrew, despite 1.5 plus million YouTube subscribers, most of whom I assume veer right. And there I am. By the way, thank you, Mr. Producer, for being Johnny on the spot. Being on that lawn, being on that berm was not good enough. He had to put us on a live lane of traffic, even though what we are standing on right now, Andrew, is public property. Now I'm on the road. And you can see these cars. They're not exactly going 20 kilometers an hour. That is your Conservative Party in action. And forget about us. Let's not make it all about us. Like I said, 3 press availabilities since the election. And, and Aaron O'Toole figuratively up a tree, not knowing how to deal with this mini caucus. Here's the question I have for you. A minority parliament, Andrew, typically in Canada lasts 18 to 24 months. Come the next election, is this the leader for the Conservative Party?
I want to say no because, he doesn't have any conservative values that he's willing to stand up for. Yeah. But I want to also say, yes, he's the leader for people who don't know any better or who don't care to read about it or just hope that the Conservative Party comes around. As you can see, Quebec didn't vote against their party. Alberta still voted for him. The voting didn't change barely at all. In fact, it got a little worse in terms of the Conservative Party's reach and the NDP's reach. But in terms of the election results, Alberta didn't turn against the Conservative establishment. Quebec didn't turn against the Liberal.
They lost some seats in Alberta.
Barely. Yeah. How many?
Still, and I think those seats were lost by people in Alberta, Andrew, not so much supporting Justin Trudeau, but by being disgusted and a little tired of being taken for granted. Just like Andrew Scheer did, the West is in the bag. Let's reach out to the Laurentian elites. And I think when the next, I share your thought. I hope he's not going to be the leader. I think he will be the leader, and I think the strategy will to go further left, right?
I think they either have to boot out these nerds and tree climbers, as you put them, and that's the only way you're going to. That's the only way you're going to win back the Conservative Party. Just like the Republican Party in the States, they've had to kick out most of the rhinos and bring in people. It doesn't matter about age; it's about beliefs and morality. If you actually believe in what you're supposed to be doing as a Conservative Party in Canada, as the official opposition, then you've got to get rid of Aaron O'Toole, the Corey Hans, all these people that won't do anything. Even Pierre, whom we like what he has to say, he won't step up to the leadership. I guess he's fine with his role there. Leslyn Lewis, hopefully she runs again, but I don't have too much hope that she would be more conservative as a leader. But you've got to get rid of these nerds and these losers and these people who don't have any idea what taking a stand means. Aaron O'Toole's willing to blow with the wind. When it comes down to the wire, they're just like, oh, maybe we've got to subside on all these beliefs and maybe we'll get some liberal voters. It never happens, Dave
Never
Menzies.
works. No.
It never happens. So when I look at these people in the Conservative Party, I see weak men that I wouldn't want to have a conversation with because they would say, oh, you're being mean, or that's offensive, or Mr. Menzies, please step off to the side of the road while I adjust my mask that covers my eyes. It's so high up, but it's made of cotton, so it doesn't do anything. Like, these are the people that you want to be in charge of you. You think they're going to stand up for your belief systems? It's not going to happen. But sorry to cut you off, but when you look at the electoral body that voted, they still went with Conservative. The PPC didn't get any seats. There's no Christian Heritage Party seats.
Wait a second, but look what PPC got in terms of the percentage
They got a lot more
That
votes.
is huge.
But the Conservative Party still won the popular vote, or lost by a couple thousand. I can't remember. They're both over 1 million. But I don't see the people who are still voting for Aaron O'Toole, or still voting for the Bloc Party, or still voting for Jagmeet. I don't see them being like, I've finally had enough, because the economy is crumbling. It was already on the way down. The spending is out of control. You look at the money printing from the government; it's out of control. The lockdowns, the forced vaccines. They're all for it, nobody seemed to care enough to change their vote to an alternative party. I would have rather have seen more votes for the NDP than Justin Trudeau, because at least they're honest about their insanity. At least they're full-blown communists. Justin Trudeau just wants to walk you down this long, winding road that makes you poor and does whatever the World Economic Forum tells him to do.
100%. And that was the storyline that Conservatives were hoping for. Forget about splitting the vote, Conservatives and PPC. Let's hope this vote is split this time, last time, between Liberals and NDP. Let's hope the NDP make gains at the Liberals' advance. But it didn't happen. It was basically a status quo of the 2019 election. But I think, Andrew, Erin O'Toole, by going further left, is playing with fire. I go back to 1993, and I'm not saying the Conservative Party, then known as the Progressive Conservative Party, was going further left, but under Kim Campbell, aka Prime Minister for a day, they went to the polls, and lo and behold, they went from a majority government to 2 seats. That's right. You could have a caucus meeting in a Mazda Miata, the 2-seater convertible, and then it was a matter of rebuilding. And maybe, just maybe, that's what happens. That's what has to happen here. That there has to be an absolute annihilation of the Conservative Party. A realization that going left, bending the knee to the media party, reaching out to the Laurentian elites, it is, as you said, a failed strategy. And then from the ashes, we can build it up Phoenix-like, kind of like what Stephen Harper did in the early 2000s. But I look at some, I don't want to make this personal or anything. Well, actually, I don't even live in the riding. But here's an example. The media identified a half dozen ridings, key ridings to watch in the GTA, right? And number one was the riding of Richmond Hill. I live in the riding above Richmond Hill, and that was the closest race of 2019. That was Kostas Menegakis going against Majid Johari, the only Persian I have met in my adoptive city of Richmond Hill that actually supports the Iranian regime. Every other Persian I've met has fled Iran because of the oppression. He reaches out to this odious regime. In 2019, folks, Kostas Menegakis went to bed as the victor. He woke up the next day, and when the mail-in ballots, where have we heard this before? When they were counted, Mr. Johari won the riding by about 200 votes, in other words, 0.2%. Here's the thing. This was regarded as the biggest horse race. Yet in 2021, with additional scandals by the Trudeau Liberals, with additional scandals by Mr. Johari, including somebody who's under CSIS investigation, who's a contributor to his campaign, this time that 200-vote horse race was a 4,000-plus landslide for Johari. How do you possibly make sense of that?
I think, unfortunately, some of the propaganda works, where there was a few interviews on the campaign trail where I remember one from Tamara Ugolini interviewed a couple older women who said that the Conservative Party is dangerous and the Conservative Party is this and that. It's like you clearly are going off of tropes from 30 years ago that aren't even true, because you actually looked at what they stand for. It's the same as the Liberal Party that you're supporting. It was at a Justin Trudeau rally. So I think a lot of the propaganda works. A lot of the oppressed minority stuff works, especially on people in the Greater Toronto area. But when it comes to people who are, Iranian regime supporters, and probably by stretch of that, Free Palestine people, BDS movement people, then you're going to get people who are on the left wing that are like, you know what, there's no NDP candidate to vote for here, so I'm probably going to go with the furthest left person I see.
You know what? I disagree, Andrew, and I'll tell you why. There were many Persian people at Kostas Menegakis' venue. It was a restaurant. It was meant to be the victory celebration of winning the seat. It turned into a very sad affair indeed. And I asked them, how is this guy getting elected? And they were baffled. They had no answers. So I don't think it's that kind of identity politics. I think it's this, that COVID-19 played into Justin Trudeau's favor. And I'll tell you why. We had so many people for a year and a half off work, collecting the CERB, so much so that there's actually a bit of a labor shortage now. I mean, there's restaurants that are desperate to hire people. And I think where it hits you, where the rubber meets the road, you had Canadians saying, this is great. I can binge watch my Netflix shows and the money's coming in. It's kind of like the Dire Straits song, you know, money for nothing and chips for free. So, see what I did there? I changed
I'd like
chicks
to know. I'd like to know the demographics of that region, age-wise, because I think it tends to be the young and the old who are voting for this lifestyle. Nothing's really changed for me. Justin Trudeau's done the best he can. He's printing money. It doesn't really affect my bank account because I've had the same type of spending patterns for the last 20 years. And then the teens and the young people who are, I'm getting CERB. I'm not even actually supposed to be, so I'm going to collect my money because the government doesn't believe in coming after people for that.
Andrew, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying this is a Richmond Hill unique thing. I'm saying across Canada, where Liberals won enough seats to form the minority government and close again to forming a majority government, I think that was a prevailing attitude. You know, getting the free money and not working, and if this is basically turning a blind eye to all the scandals, too numerous to count: blackface, Jody Wilson-Raybould, SNC Lavalin, the weed charity, the India fiasco. I mean, we can't even keep track of them.
Cue Justin Trudeau dancing in India, please.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's right. And what do you make of that? He went to Glasgow. I'm of Scottish heritage, and I feel offended that he didn't kilt up.
That's true.
Right?
What's going on
why
there, Justin
not?
Trudeau?
Why Justin Trudeau? Why are you Scots phobic?
He chose to go to the Netherlands and get drunk instead. So that was all the partying he could take. And then, you know, Prince Charles came in and fed him his, you know, what's the movie? It's Soylent Green.
Oh yes,
and
yes.
We should really move on. Though.
Don't get
here
yeah.
he is.
Look at that. He
nothing to see here. Go ahead. Yeah, the UN flag.
Oh yes.
Prince Charles is there to give his World Economic Forum talking points. That's what it is now, David Menzies. I mean, every conspiracy comes true. Nobody's questioning this anymore. Klaus Schwab, Prince Charles, MasterCard, Microsoft, BP Oil, all the companies at the World Economic Forum, International Monetary Fund, they're all coming together. They're all saying build back better. They're all saying climate change policy is what we need. Everybody stay home. The famous thing of you will own nothing and you'll love it. It's all coming true. They're all doing the same policy across the Western nations of US, UK, Canada, New Zealand, Australia. It's not a conspiracy anymore. The major international corporations, in part with weak leaders who are saying, sure, we'll sell you vaccines.
And you know,
they're all doing the same thing.
I agree. And isn't it perversely ironic that the people saying you're not going to own nothing, I'm talking about the elites of the world, Bill Gates, for example. Bill Gates now, Andrew, is the largest owner of farmland in the United States. And I was just speaking, I got to check this out, but I think she's correct. Bill Gates also happens to be, according to a CN employee, CN Rail that is, the single biggest shareholder of CN Rail here in Canada.
They
10.4%
of stuff. If you look up the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation on Wikipedia, producer up front, I think you can see the breakdown of the stocks they own. Coca-Cola, the railway, as you mentioned, all kinds of stuff. They own big percentages of. McDonald's, I think, is another one. Anything that you think of as a big corporation in North America, they own a piece of.
And you know, and the key thing is, look at what they're owning. Really tangible stuff that is never going to go away. Farmland.
Exactly.
We need to eat. A railway. Despite all this climate change nonsense, these trains are going to go into stations and offload onto trucks that spew carbon.
What website is this?
And even if this, which website is the Western Producer? There you go.
Farm Media.
Largest ownership stake at CN. And so Bill Gates knows that despite all this rhetoric, say, in terms of climate change, reducing your carbon footprint, at the end of the day, those crops get on trains and those trains go into cities and they're offloaded onto trucks spewing carbon because electrification of transport trucks is decades away, I'm sure. And that's where the money is. And like we always say in this business, Andrew, follow the money, right?
Build back better. We've been on this topic for a while. Let's start pulling away from YouTube after we show some big Lewis Brackpool content from the Glasgow conference. He was up against Extinction Rebellion, not too contentious. Had an old man there who was afraid to insult the elites. He didn't want to insult the elites, anything but insulting the elites. We had some people cosplaying with some weird stuff. So if we can cue up that stuff, producer Efron. Yes, wait till you see it.
I know.
And then we'll pull away from YouTube after that. So here's Lewis Brackpool, UK reporter, in Glasgow eating haggis.
Police escort as well. Look at that. What do you? Oh no. Look at that big police escort as well. That's huge for Extinction Rebellion.
Oh,
Wow.
thank you, Olivia. What's the matter with you? Okay. Mike's on.
Surely, if they wanted to cut on carbon emissions and net zero CO2, surely that they would practice what they preach by not flying here on private jets, getting chauffeured in 85 cars the other day with Joe Biden. You know, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, it is important, I think, to be together. And there's Zoom is.
You know that episode of Seinfeld? I feel like producer Olivia came in and gave me this. Oh, we're cutting back away. There's Lewis, never mind.
Rebel News, and in today's report, I'm going to be pointing out collective hypocrisy from climate activists. I've been going around talking to various climate activists, including trying to have a discussion with ex-armies, Extinction Rebellion, who don't seem to have all the right answers. But before we get started, I just want to say a big thank you to all the Rebel News viewers out there that have been really contributing and helping me out to make this trip to Glasgow happen. We know that other mainstream media outlets will not point out any of these hypocrisies, so heading on over to rebelun.com to see the hypocrisies play out. So please head on over to rebelun.com. That's what I heard.
There they are, David Menzies.
In general, the idea is that civil
You know, they're really making change by doing that.
So if you think about, for example, the movements, if you,
Hunger strikes, like
for example, these kinds of things,
standing in roads and that.
locking yourself to fences or gluing yourself to a bank.
Gluing.
I glue myself.
Do you regret the gluing? Are you
Yeah, it's not one of my better moves. Yes.
right.
But it was to sort of make a statement that things are fairly critical.
What does XR think about world leaders coming here on like private jets, Range Rovers, and then preaching this whole like carbon footprint, we should do better, but they're not preaching what they preach?
So XR is a decentralized movement, so there's not like one XR that thinks something, but it's every rebel kind of thinks their own things, obviously.
Every rebel?
Extinction Rebellion, right?
Oh, right, I get you.
So I personally think that there could have been other ways to do this. For example, Zoom calls, right? We've gotten so good.
So the question was really, wouldn't it be easier if all the elites just stayed at home to save them carbon emissions?
Nothing's easy about changing the world. This is the biggest transformation society has ever seen in the whole history of humanity. There's nothing easy about it. Nobody suggested it was easy. It's going to be hard, and it's going to take us to work across people collectively, whether you're that area of society or that area of society or that area of society. It doesn't matter. But what's important is that we all collectively decide to take action right now, because the climate crisis is the biggest crisis that humanity faces. We haven't got time. We don't have time to sit and debate. We need to take action right now.
Shouldn't they collectively practice what they preach?
Well, I think it's up to us. It's up to all of us. It's up to the people, we the people, to tell the governments that, because the government set the rules, obviously, that that they should do it in the right way.
So then why is it that they're getting together and now lecturing us plebs on how to live our lives when they can't even practice what they preach?
No, I think it's really important that the governments do sort this problem out.
But they're not practicing what they preach, though.
Well, Okay, ask the question a different way.
Well, no, I've just asked you. Surely, if they wanted to cut on carbon emissions and net zero CO2, surely that they would practice what they preach by not flying here on private jets, getting chauffeured in 85 cars the other day with Joe Biden. You know, what's your thoughts on that? Like,
Well, it is important, I think, to be together. And Zoom is brilliant, but there's a lot of things that you can't do over Zoom. We could have this discussion over Zoom.
Well, we're not.
I'm a filmmaker,
Sure.
And I know that there's only so much energy you can get off the internet.
I'm
And
not talking necessarily about
together,
us.
Being together,
Right.
it's really important to be able to look somebody in the eye and to be able to understand them. So I think it is important that people are together. And I think it's right that the leaders are here together to try to fix the biggest crisis that we face.
You say the people, though. We're talking about just a bunch of world leaders. They could have easily stayed at home. We're the ones that are bearing the brunt of this. So surely if they practice what they preached and set an example, surely the people would follow.
Well, it's just my view. It's just my view.
Right.
I think that the leaders, and they apparently are our leaders, that they should sit in the same room and they should look each other in the eye to solve this crisis. I don't think you can do it over Zoom.
You could, technically.
I don't think so.
No?
That's just my view.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Cool.
No, I really
Have a good
appreciate
one.
that. So you just had an altercation with those climate activists back there.
No trade.
Yeah.
So there's money getting lost while all the politicians who are liars are gaining,
Right.
always gaining.
Do you think it would have been easier if they just stayed at home and done this via Zoom?
Without a doubt, there would have been a lot of money.
Well, that gentleman back there was saying, well, you can't look someone in the eye on Zoom. So what's your thoughts
Well,
on
maybe
that?
you can look them in the eye, but if you look one of the politicians in the eye in there, you're going to get the same as you get
Yeah.
on Zoom as
Yeah.
lies.
Would you agree that it's us that bear the brunt of this,
Yes.
the plebs,
Yes.
not them? So, and they're not practicing what they preach?
Of course they don't. They definitely don't. It's us. It's just local, normal people who get the brunt of it all the time. They're sitting there, big fancy cars, flying in, flying back out, wined and dined, and plenty of money in their pocket. And we've got to go to work. And trying to get to work
Yeah.
is maybe putting an hour to an hour and a half on your travelling time because all the roads are closed.
Could you give us your opinion on these protesters that have been walking along the street and blocking all the traffic?
Seriously, mate, who has the time? Who has the time? Honest to God, it's like, go get a job. Seriously, mate, go get a job, man. Like, look at them. They're just marching along. Look at this. We're stuck in traffic now.
Yeah.
You know, we're stuck in traffic, so come on, like, think about us workers and things. We need to make a living out here, you know. We can't make a living simply because of that. Look at that, you know. Absolute chaos.
Do you think they're marching and blocking traffic is actually going to
Mate, this job would take 5-10 minutes. This is going to take 20 minutes to half an hour now. That's what it's going to be like. So,
do you think that this is because I believe it's for the climate? Do you think that it's going to make a difference them doing this?
it's not going to make a difference, mate. You really think politicians are going to listen to them? They're not. You know, they're here just to show the world, oh yeah, we care. Even the politicians, there's not going to be any result from this. No. There's not going to be any result, you know. Big Boris said that as well, you know. He came out saying, I'll be very surprised if this clicks. You know, so what's the point in all of this? Yeah. Look at this, you know.
Police escort as well, look at that. What do you, oh no, I can't get it. Look at that. Big police escort as well, that's huge for Extinction Rebellion. That's the biggest police escort I've ever seen. What are your thoughts, man?
Again, who has the time, mate? Who has the time, honestly?
Wow, look at that. Look at all these police right here.
Look at all this. Look at, oh my, I can't believe this. Can't believe this.
What do you think? Do you think all this is great for the environment?
Definitely not. Us being stuck in traffic, us being stuck, look at that.
Look at that.
Traffic. How are they helping the climate? You know, how are they helping the climate? I don't get it. It's all a bit of a shit show, isn't it? That's what it is, man.
And furthermore, Glaswegians have been...
Is it possible? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's like something out of Monty Python. There were more policemen escorting the protesters. I only saw ones and twos of them, and more police vehicles perhaps than protesters than there were I mean, like, it's like, and the fact that the irony seems to be lost only on those at Extinction Rebellion, that all these police vehicles creating emissions, and also what the Glaswegian cabbie was saying, stuck in traffic. We've experienced this firsthand here in Toronto, Andrew, with Extinction Rebellion. I remember on a rainy weekday at the height of rush hour, they shut down Yonge and Dundas, and every which way you could see, as far as the eye could see, north, south, east, west, it was absolute gridlock. Hey, geniuses at Extinction Rebellion, do you know what the absolute worst emissions to come out of a tailpipe of a vehicle? It is when a vehicle is idling as opposed to running at a constant highway speed. Again, they seem to be the only ones unaware of this, that their actions are actually causing more climate damage rather than less, Andrew.
Well, they would be arguing that they have to disrupt the status quo in order to get their message across, but we know that nobody really cares about it. It's such like a teenager's argument, like this climate change stuff, and the world leaders know this, and none of them care about it, and they just go right into it because they know that they want to infect the minds of young people for the future. Greta doesn't even believe them anymore.
How dare you?
But it's so pathetic. It's just like, we'll go sit in the road, and then you guys will stop, and you'll realize that you're causing damage to the planet. We only have a planet A, not a planet B, David Menzies.
Oh, and I mean, that fellow Lewis was interviewing, who was saying, who was poo-pooing a Zoom meeting, he said the quote, "It's important to be together." You know, I actually agree with that, but what happened to social distancing? What happened to the fact that last year's climate summit was a Zoom meeting? Well, I guess the pandemic's over. Oh, this just in. No, it's not. Keep wearing those face diapers. Keep social distancing. Get your vaccines. And then we had the fellow who glued himself to the road.
Love that, eh?
You know what? Finally, crazy glue lives up to its name.
What would you say? Like, that guy's probably in his 60s and he's gluing his face to the road for something. Maybe he's been fighting this for 50 years.
Look at that. How sad.
Me and Lewis talked about this on the episode of my show. These are climate activists that are part of the Insulate Britain. They want free insulation for all the houses in Britain.
Oh, they're going to need it with the way fuel costs are skyrocketing in the UK, both for petrol for cars and home heating fuel. It is a catastrophe that's looming for the UK in terms of the middle class, the lower class, however you want to call the plebs, as Lewis likes to call them, in terms of paying the home heating bill. It's going to be a case, I think, for some people, stay warm and starve, or eat and be cold and just sweat her up. We're already paying a price in terms of irresponsible energy policies from the left, and these elites want us to pay even more.
Right.
I mean,
they want a worldwide carbon tax just so nobody can complain. Well, you can't say it's better here or there when it's worldwide. It's like the sweeping minimum wage costs. We're getting that from increases. We're getting that from Doug Ford. You know, it worked so well last time. It didn't result in immediate cut jobs and cut hours and McDonald's and Walmart springing up automated machines immediately. It didn't happen. Let's just do it again. It's going to fix everything. If we give everybody an extra $1, that'll offset you'll be spending that in 1 gallon of gas.
Not only that, Andrew,
the workers deserve more. We must rise up as a collective, David Menzies, and take the means of production. Doug Ford turning to communism.
What is perversely ironic about those self-checkout machinery that you see replacing human cashiers is that the Silicon Valley tech giants that they all seem to be leftist for whatever reason. They are all gung-ho about minimum wage, publicly. Yes, we need a higher minimum wage. We support that. But they are the ones, Andrew, building the software, building the hardware for self-checkout. So while they say we want minimum wage, they're devising technology to get rid of minimum wage employees. It's crazy.
So when you see David Menzies at Walmart, know that he's stealing from the machines to make sure that he gets his money back, right?
The only theft I did was I think I might have pressed 3 bags, and I think I took 4 because
Unbelievable.
One of the bags, and they're made out of onion. And, here's another thing. I'm going to go off on a tangerine here.
No, wait.
All you virtue signaling retailers and corporations, we've reduced our plastic output by 63%. Yeah, by making a bag that is about as effective as onion skin, you put like 1 pound of merchandise in it, and it falls out the bottom. So in other words, you have to triple or quadruple or quintuple the bagging. That means 5, Andrew. And in order to walk out of there, so you've actually basically increased the weight of the bags because the end user can't depend on these. And Walmart, that's one of the worst bags
Well,
ever.
remember they tried to ban the plastic, like they discontinued the plastic bags for like a week. We should really get off YouTube. We hate them. Are we off or are we getting off?
I think it's love-hate.
So you can go to rebelnews.com/livestreams to find the links every single day, and you can see the link in the description. We're going to be on Rumble continually, and SuperU, and Odyssey.com. And you can send us your paid chats there. We can get to some of those in a bit. But as we're getting off,